All right, so a little change of plans real quick. It's Friday as I'm filming this, and this video is going to be uploaded immediately. You guys can see in the kitchen, whole bunch of stuff for a cooking video. That's what we were supposed to be doing. We're probably still going to end up doing that after I get done telling you guys what's going on. I should post up like right here because this is usually where I do these little sentimental things. Folks, it's about to get real quick. You guys are probably going to get really mad at me, and I'm sorry. I'm getting ready to share a story with y'all that's not a good one. It's been a crazy day, to say the least. We got Rabbit over here. Shout out to Rabbit.
Peace.
Rabbit came over here, Dave came over here, Cody's over here, and we went and picked up this guy Jellico that I know from prison, and I wanted to introduce him to all of you, and we were getting ready to do a cooking video. Well, on the way back, we were coming into the apartment complex, and as we were pulling in, there were a whole bunch of police cars that were sitting in the apartment complex. So I didn't know what was going on, and I called my wife to try to find out what was up. She didn't answer the phone. We came in, we started getting everything set up for more filming, and then my wife called me, and she was crying. And I already knew that this was gonna be a bad situation. She was really upset because she runs, you know, she's a manager, and she has to deal with people here. Anyways, she was really upset, and I guess there were some residents, a guy and a girl, a man and a woman, who were arguing in the parking lot, and they were causing a commotion. I don't even know the backstory to what happened too much prior to how the whole thing started, but they were arguing. Supposedly somebody went outside to tell them, hey, look, you can't do that out here. Can you guys break it up or whatever? Well, then all of a sudden, those two people, that man and that woman, ended up coming into my wife's office and getting in her face and threatening her. The woman was supposedly leaned all over my wife's desk, ready to hit her, telling her that she was going to hit her. And the man was in there doing, supposedly was in there in just as an intimidating of a manner as the woman was in there. I don't know necessarily all what transpired at that point. And at that point, I lost it, you know. I kind of got upset. I was really upset. My wife called me crying. I was mad. So I knew the police were up there talking with them, because I asked my wife, I said, well, what are they doing right now? She said, well, the police, they're up there right now talking with the people. I said, okay, I'm on my way up there. I wanted to go up there and I wanted to talk with the police because I wanted to find out what was about to be done about this situation, because this is not the first time a situation like this has happened, where somebody's gone into my wife's place of work and has, you know, been really nasty with her. And every other time in the past, I've let it slide. But when I hear that, you know, you're in there threatening bodily harm to my wife, I want to know what's about to be done about this situation. So I got up in the truck and I drove up to the office, and I didn't even make it out to the gate. I didn't make it out of the gate. I parked. The police were right there. I seen them talking to the people who were in the vehicle. I guess they were in their vehicle at this point. And I jumped out of the vehicle and I was coming through the gate. I was walking through the gate and I was asking, I don't even remember what I was saying. I was saying something along the lines of, what is going on? What's going on up here? What are you guys doing about this situation? I'm pretty sure that's what my words were. And at this point, the cop is getting, you know, he's getting aggravated with me. He's like, sir, get back, stay back. Stay behind the fence. Just wait over there by your vehicle. Sir, go get in your vehicle. Wait over there by your vehicle. I said, my wife was just threatened up here by these folks. So what are y'all doing about this? So I stood over there by the vehicle and I waited. I waited for a good little while. I could see the guy, because now the guy's out of the vehicle and the girl's out of the vehicle, and they've even got a baby as well. And the woman is holding the baby, but I can see the guy looking at me, and I can hear him talking about me, pointing, and he's super hostile. And I'm just standing here waiting to talk to the police, because I want to know what they're going to do about this situation, because my wife was just threatened at work. And there's video surveillance of that I guess, you know, was shown to the police as well. So the cop tells me, sir, stand by your vehicle, get back. I do that. And I'm standing there and I'm just watching the situation. And it goes on for probably 5 or 10 minutes of me just standing there looking at these folks. The guy's steadily looking at me. I can't hear exactly what he's saying, but I know he's, talking about me. He's pointing at me, whatever. Finally, I get word to leave. My wife is upset. She's like, she sends word, Joe, just leave because it's upsetting to your wife. So I do that. Come back to the apartment. Film this video that we had to get filmed, a video you guys will see later. I'm wondering if you guys are going to be able to notice in that video if I'm dealing with a situation, because if you can notice that, well, this is the situation that I'm dealing with. And trust me, folks, this is, it's pretty crazy. We ain't even got to the best part yet. So come back, we film. My wife calls me and tells me, hey, guess what? The police, they want to talk with you. Okay, good, because I really want to talk with them. I want to find out what's been done. Did you arrest these folks? For threatening you. Are they going to do that? There's video surveillance. I can't emphasize that enough. Guess why they want to talk to me, though? Because these people, whoever they are, I don't know who they are, they're wanting to press charges on me. For what? Like what? I don't even know what the charge would be. Does anybody have any idea what this charge could be? What kind of a charge? What did I do? Supposedly, right?
Squeezing through a gate. Looking at me in a threatening manner.
Supposedly, they're at the magistrate right now taking out charges on me. So there's no telling. We could be filming the cooking video, and the police could be on their way to come pick me up and arrest me for whatever this charge is going to be. And the one thing that I want to say is I'm laughing and joking about this. I'm really, really pissed off, because how are you going to go threaten my wife at her work? She was just doing her job. You walked in there, and now all of a sudden I'm the one who's potentially about to get arrested for this. That's crazy, right? So look, I had to go back up to the office to go speak with the police officers. And the one thing that I want to say is, and I said this, y'all wait until you hear what I said. Wait for this. This is crazy. I got Dave and Cody and Rabbit all standing in the background listening to this story. I went back up there to speak with the police officers, and they said, hey, look, that was a really heated situation, right? And I said, hey, my wife called me. She told me she had just been threatened, and she was upset, and she said you guys were up there dealing with the situation. I just wanted to come up there and speak with you guys and find out what was being done about it. But real quick, I need to throw this out here first and foremost before I get into the conversation that me and the cops had, and that is, I ain't got nothing but respect for the two officers who responded to this situation. They probably did the most that they could. They were very nice to me, and they were doing their job. So no matter how this plays out, I got nothing but respect for those two officers, and I even told them that I would shout them out in this video, that I told them that I was coming back to film. So I don't know what those officers' names was, but for those Chesapeake police officers, thank you very much for handling that situation and responding to it in the timely manner that you guys did. Because God only knows how that situation could have played out if you didn't show up, between them and my wife. So I go in there and the police want to talk to me, and they say, hey, it was a pretty heated situation right there. I said, yeah, I wanted to make sure my wife was okay. I wanted to speak with you guys. So they said, well, look, there is the possibility that they're going to try to press charges on you. I just need to I need to inform you of that. And I responded I probably could have done a little better. But I responded saying, well, first thing I want to tell you about me is I am a super convicted felon. I'm a super convicted felon. I'm also, I also have a prison-related YouTube channel. You guys should check it out. Subscribe. It's called After Prison Show, the largest prison-related YouTube channel in the world, if that means anything. So I said, I just want to let you guys know that no matter how this situation plays out, if they do try to put charges on, what are they going to charge me with? And you don't think I'm going to go get me a lawyer out of this world? I will go get that lawyer. I will go get that same lawyer that I got for this guy right here when he was locked up. Trust and believe me, I got a lawyer now. And we're going to box that charge. We're going to box that to pieces. What you want to charge me with? Joe might be getting ready to get arrested. I should probably be kind of sad about that. I wonder if I'm going to be able to make bond. It is what it is. They said, hey, I just need to let you know that if they do show back up here, we've banned them from the property. If they do show back up, call us if you have any kind of interaction with them. I said, I'm not going to be going looking for no problems. I wasn't looking for no problems to start with. I just wanted to talk with you, officers, and make sure that my wife was okay. And supposedly, I don't know what charge I'm getting from this. But I said, you know, trust me, I will call you, and I'll record everything. Everybody's recording things these days, you know. Pull out the camera. World Star. I'll do that. And the cops, you know, they're writing down after prison show. Make sure y'all check it out, which they said that they would. So again, special shout out to them guys. But as I'm telling them that I'm going to record everything, I was making sure that's not the police. As I was telling them that I was going to record everything, they said, hey, we do the same thing. It's right here. I said, yo, can I get that footage? Can I get that and incorporate that in this video? Because at this point where I'm having this little police interrogation, I'm kicked back with my feet. I ain't got no worries. I got no worries. It's crazy. So I needed to address this situation, and I know I should have probably done so with the piano music or the violin track in a sobby type of way, but you know what? I didn't do anything wrong. And if I do end up getting locked up, don't think for a second I won't get out immediately on bond and box this. I'm gonna box this like a Evander Holyfield up in the courtroom. How is it though? I want to just wrap this up with this final thought. How is it though that you can go into my wife's work, threaten her, make her scared for her life, but yet I'm the one who's going to get in trouble for this? Anybody got a idea?
That's by far one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. I have no idea in the world of how you could possibly be charged with anything. You never even spoke to those guys.
It's Virginia. Your best bet right now
Is to call a lawyer?
Yep. Countermeasure.
What? Press charges on them?
You need to carry your butt down there with your wife to the magistrate's office and put those charges out. And the reason being is their evidence is what? Them against you.
Well, supposedly there's a cell phone video because as soon as I came walking through the gate, the woman was World Star. Man, get the fuck out of here, man. Try to put some charges on. I swear, you know.
But y'all have surveillance footage.
Yeah, they got the surveillance footage. My wife didn't press charges. But guess what? There is a police report. So I'm going to wrap this up by saying, hey, look, I apologize for having to tell you all about this. This situation got me super mad. We was having a great day, getting ready to cook away and get ready to introduce somebody new. And then this whole situation popped up. I don't know. I just asked, you know, what would you do if your wife, girlfriend, husband called you and, you know, somebody had just threatened them? You'd be mad. I mean, so with that being said, I can't do nothing but wait and see how this is going to play out. And if I do get locked up, I'm asking that y'all write me. Y'all wish me a little bit of luck. Say a little silent prayer for your boy. And I'll keep you posted on how this is all going to play out.
The sub gap is over 9,000. That's a meme. Good meme, Felix. It ain't over till I say it's over. For real though, I'm really proud of everyone. I can't believe we made it this far. It's honestly an achievement. Just never give up. I'm not giving up until T-Series goes poof. There will be no more bro fists. I'm serious. I didn't think I would have to do this. No more bro fists until T-Series gets deleted, gets completely annihilated. I didn't want to sink this low, but I guess I have no choice, huh? Do you know how much it's gonna mean to get that bro fist? Here, try it. Stop! I was to test you, dumb ball. Until then, let's get into the memes, guys.
Leave your entries in the subreddit bros, and I'll watch submissions in the next episode of The Why.
Another week, another meme, everyone. Let's just... Hello, everyone. Yeah! When you just ended being a meme, but then you become a meme again. It's rewind time. Incredible. I'm sorry, Will Smith. You can't rewind your career, though. Unless you go on Meme Review. I drew PewDiePie for 24 hours straight. God damn. I haven't even done anything for myself for that long. I did what I could to help. small YouTuber, ZHC. See, this is what I'm talking about. I understand that you look at your own life and what you do to be completely insignificant, and I 100% agree with that assessment, by the way. But if we all work together, if we all do our part, we can do amazing things. Look at this fan art. Look at it. Whoa, holy damn. T-Series. Sub. Memes. Very nice.
It weighed 46,000 tons, yet floated on water. At over 882 feet long and 175 feet high, the Titanic was an unforgettable sight. The company that built it wanted the largest ship with state-of-the-art technology and every luxury imaginable. It was not disappointed. As the Titanic left England April 10, 1912 on a journey that would span the Atlantic, many watched as the looming figure of the seemingly perfect ship vanished into the distance. None expected it to sink just 4 days later. Today we find out the fate of those on board in this episode of the Infographics Show. Where did all the bodies on the Titanic disappear? The Titanic was the brainchild of the White Star Line, a shipbuilding company in direct competition with the other companies of the time. One of these, Cunard, had built the Lusitania and Mauretania in 1907, nautical masterpieces that crossed the Atlantic at record-breaking speeds, and thereby earned their builders widespread acclaim and recognition. Not to be upstaged, White Star set about to make not one but 3 passenger ships to surpass all others in both size and luxury: the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic. To their credit, builders Harland and Wolff succeeded in creating what were the world's largest man-made objects that moved. However, this feat came at a cost. The quantity of materials needed for these vessels was immense. As steel and rivet supplies dwindled, they were forced to use inferior versions, held together with lower-grade plates and rivets. Many believe the Titanic was doomed from the beginning. Indeed, evidence suggests that instead of bending as high-quality steel would do, pieces of the hull shattered and rivets broke as the vessel made impact with an iceberg off the Newfoundland coast. Less than 3 hours later, it was at the bottom of the sea. Ironically, the Titanic had been dubbed unsinkable due to its believed infallible design. It not only had electronic controls and a wireless communication system, but was equipped with sealable compartments to keep it afloat. However, as the ship veered left in a failed attempt to avoid the iceberg, nearly 300 feet of holes were knocked into its right-hand side. Water flowed into 6 of the supposed watertight compartments and then moved on to fill the rest. Many believed this event was mostly due to human error. A radioed warning of icy conditions, for example, was dismissed as unimportant. The lookouts responsible for sighting obstacles could not access their binoculars. Even the captain may have pressed on in hopes of making record speeds. Mother Nature was of no help either. Large chunks of ice and hazy optical illusions only contributed to the crash. Further, nearby ships could not tell the Titanic was sinking. The lack of aid, in addition to the shortage of lifeboats, resulted in a profound loss of life. In the panic and chaos, the boats that were available were also misused, leaving 400 empty seats and over 1,500 people stranded. As the front of the ship sank with the weight of incoming water, the back rose steadily higher. Mounting pressure eventually caused it to crack, sending the front into the depths of the ocean. The rest soon followed. By 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, what was left of the Titanic was gone. The 710 who survived were rescued by the Carpathia, responding to Titanic's signals of distress. It did not reach the area, however, until almost 2 hours later. While the Titanic sank in the darkness, the sun was rising by this time, highlighting the remains of the less fortunate, lifelessly suspended in the sea. The Carpathia was forced to navigate around multiple icebergs and past floating bodies to reach those still alive. Despite its best efforts, some of those rescued later died and were buried at sea. In all, over 1,500 passengers were lost. Compounding the tragedy further was the fact that of those who perished, only 340 were found. Some believe that these low numbers were in part due to weather. There's evidence that after the Titanic sank, a huge storm swept through the area, scattering those adrift over as many as 50 miles. In this case, by the time ships came for the bodies, recovery of many was impossible. Those who still floated beside what was left of the Titanic's doors, pillows, and chairs continued to be discovered throughout April and May. Ships such as the Mackay Bennett spent days pulling out those strapped to life jackets, identifying them and tagging their bodies for return to families or for burial. Sadly, even after many were gone, some operations were unprepared for the corpses that remained. There are reports that as vessels ran out of space, bodies of third-class passengers were tossed overboard in favor of those from first. In all, while a few hundred were lifted from their watery graves, upwards of 1,000 were unaccounted for, never again to be seen. What is left of those who were scattered all over the ocean's surface remains unknown. However, it's believed that a majority of those missing went down with the ship. Indeed, the underwater scene of the wreck, discovered miles below the surface of the Atlantic, holds countless indicators of death on a massive scale. A haunting photo from the surrounding seabed reveals boots and a jacket in positions to indicate that they once covered a body. This suggests the presence of what would have been a corpse, though no bones can be seen. Experts explain that what was a body and then a skeleton may have long ago turned to sediment. Additional shoes littered the ocean floor, a ghostly reminder of tragedy long ago. Some who have ventured inside of what's left of the Titanic have even seen clothing in there as well. A few explorers in the area claim to have found both a ring and a finger, but they reburied these without a trace. No other such discovery has been documented. The evidence that corpses once surrounded the Titanic and rested within its outermost structure is strong. However, what is deep within the wreck is up for debate. Some believe that hundreds died inside and remain there still. If this is true, it's possible that bones and teeth, perhaps even entire bodies, lie within it. After all, in the most interior areas closed off from currents and without a supply of oxygen-rich water, bodies would be free of fish or worms. In general, decomposition halts in such isolated conditions. In fact, organic materials left in similarly cold, pressurized environments without access to a current have been preserved for as long as centuries. It would seem that inside the ship and nowhere else that recognizable remains, should any exist, could be found. Fortunately, those at rest within the Titanic will be left in peace. As an over a century-year-old wreck, the Titanic now falls under the protection of the 2001 UNESCO Convention, making damage or pillage to the site illegal. But the question remains, are the people still trapped within the Titanic? And if so, how many? Have they been preserved, or are they now a form of sediment, as we will all eventually be? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called 50 Facts About Titanic You Didn't Know. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.
You might have been on the internet recently and seen some maps so ridiculous that you've had to stop, scratch your head, and wonder who made up this nonsense. But sometimes a quick Google proves that despite your disbelief, the map was genuine all along. So in this video, I'll take a look at some of the most absurd but accurate maps on the internet.
As far as any religion goes, Norse paganism by far has the most intrigue and darkness surrounding it, capturing the attention of people across the globe, whether through TV with shows such as Vikings and The Last Kingdom, or via reading and learning about the adventures and beliefs of the Norse Vikings. The Vikings in particular were renowned for their superstitions and the stories they would tell others depicting all sorts of gods, creatures and spirits, many of which were described as malevolent and villainous beasts to be fearful of. These stories served as theoretical explanations to life and death, providing guidance and reason to the individual in a time before science. But since the days of the Vikings, these sagas have become an important staple in Scandinavian identity. Many of the creatures depicted are extremely unusual and have interesting and creepy stories behind them. So here are 5 examples of the most spine-chilling creatures in Norse mythology. Now before we get into this video, do you remember those RPG games from the 90s that everyone loved? Well, we've been finding ourselves travelling back in time with the Vikings, playing the truly fantastic strategy game Vikings War of Clans. This has an old school feel of 90s gaming nostalgia, and it's done on an epic scale. With its high quality graphics and 3D animations, we benefit from the most realistic atmosphere I've ever experienced in this gaming genre. Even more impressive is that there are around 20 million players who also enjoy the game. So why not have a go at forging new alliances and competing in some of the awesome live events? Help support sponsor. Jormungand. In Norse belief, Jormungand is a giant sea serpent who lives in the deepest depths of the ocean of Midgard, and is perhaps one of the most famous and evil creatures in Norse mythology. Jormungand was the middle child of the giantess Angabua and Loki, the evil and convincing god known as the Trickster. The name Jormungand literally translates to huge monster, and he was just that, with dark, evil eyes, a tongue made of green in colour due to his potent venom, and a tail so long it encompasses the entire world of Midgard, the name given for the earthly world. In Norse mythology, Jormungand has a key role in Ragnarok, the Armageddon event, which is to occur after the deaths of the gods in battle and lead to the end of the world. Following Loki's betrayal of the gods to evil, Odin punishes him by casting his son Jormungand into the ocean of Midgard, which was believed to be so cold that he wouldn't be able to survive. However, Jormungand acclimatized, and it's said in the sagas that over the years he grew so large that his tail was responsible for holding the world of Midgard together. Jormungand was discovered to be alive first by Thor while on a fishing trip, when he grabbed onto the ox head bait Thor was using and almost dragged Thor into the ocean, where he would have drowned. Fortunately, Thor's ship hand was able to cut the rope before the boat capsized. It is said that Ragnarok will begin when Jormungand releases his tail to seek revenge on Thor, the son of Odin, and Midgard will begin to fall apart. In what is known as the final battle, Jormungand and Thor will have a ferocious battle on the very beach which he was tossed into the sea thousands of years before, and Thor will slay Jormungand only after being bitten by the venomous serpent and dying, causing the collapse of the balance between good and evil. Nidhogg. Nidhogg is a ferocious and horrific dragon in Norse mythology, which has gone down in Scandinavian folklore as a notorious villain. Nidhogg is described in Nordic poems as a vicious and bloodthirsty creature of hell, who has only one desire: to wreak havoc and slaughter every man, woman and child of Midgard. However, it is told that he is unable to do this, for he is trapped below the surface in Nastrond, a hellish place where all those who have committed the worst crimes of Nordic society are sent, which included murderers, thieves and adulterers. This is reflected in many Norse paintings, where he is depicted often as being trapped by a tree that is seen as responsible for providing all of Earth with life. Instead, to survive, Nidhogg is said to slaughter and devour those sent to Nastrond every night, to cause eternal suffering, waiting for his moment to escape. The Vikings believed that it was only a matter of time until Nidhogg would be able to gnaw through the thick roots of the Tree of Life and break through to the surface, said to likely coincide with the beginning of Ragnarok. When this happens, they believed that the extent of the damage to the tree caused by Nidhogg will be so great that the tree will collapse, causing all life on Midgard to perish. as the gods fight in the final battle of the 9 worlds in Norse pagan beliefs. The stories and descriptions of Nidhogg in folklore was found so frightening by the Vikings that it would deter many from committing any crime, which would surely send them to Nostrand, a world seen as the worst place one could possibly be in. Vord. Vord is not the name given to a single beast, but is the name for what the Norse believed were guardian spirits, translated into English as warden spirits, for they live with the sole purpose to follow and protect the human being they have been assigned to. In Scandinavian and Germanic culture, it's believed the Vord is invisible to humans, for they are of another world which we do not have the ability to see. Similar to the idea of different dimensions, therefore no one knows exactly what they look like, but it's believed that despite this, the Vord is always with you, similar in a sense to angels. One creepy belief the Vikings had of Vord was that occasionally they would purposely do little things to show they were still there following, such as brushing your hand or touching your back, and could even appear as a ghostly apparition in the form of an orb of light, which was their explanation of paranormal sightings. It's said that Vord might choose to do this in order to cause drastic change to their being's life, or even just to confuse and scare the individual. Though good spirits generally, Vord still had the ability to be evil, and it was believed that they were able to influence the course of someone's life, whether for good or for bad. So it was down to the Vord to be good-hearted, for the human to also be good-hearted. It's an eerie belief to think that controlling your own life is just an illusion, and you are in fact completely at the mercy of a spirit you can't see, especially when you do not know whether their intentions were good or bad. It's thought today that the Vikings used the idea of Vord in a similar way that we believe today in the psychological of good and bad conscience, an interesting and advanced concept for people to have had so long ago. Kraken. Whether through folklore or films like Pirates of the Caribbean, we have all heard of the legendary Kraken, a gigantic and dangerous squid-like sea monster which is capable of destroying entire fleets of ships with its deathly tentacles. It is somewhat forgotten that the Kraken is actually the creation of Scandinavian folklore, as the Vikings were seafaring tribesmen who were extremely superstitious about what lurked in the deep and cold oceans surrounding them. However, during the days of the Vikings, Kraken was used as a much broader term to describe any kind of enormous sea monster, back then depicting more like whales than squids. It's not believed that Kraken were evil beasts on any religious dimension, but were simply monsters so large that they could not control their own strength. This is how Lingabak and Hafgufa, the two most infamous Kraken of Norse mythology, gained their notoriety as the most feared beasts of the sea. Lingabakar is described as the largest whale to ever live, but Hafgufa is said to be the largest sea monster to ever exist. It was said that together the pair would surface to the water in the presence of ships and bait sailors into believing that they had found land, for their backs were so large that they seemed to be islands. After the sailors would land and disembark from their ships onto the back of one of the beasts, they would resubmerge and drown all of the unsuspecting sailors. The only written account of this is in the sagas of Orvar Olg, a legendary Viking warrior of the saga set in Greenland. The story goes that during an exploration exhibition in an attempt to create a settlement on Greenland, he and his men saw islands' rocks appear in front of them after days without seeing land, and they were instantly convinced it was in fact two small islands, as one of them appeared to have heather growing on the land. The Viking, confused and suspicious, ordered the men to sail past the island, but later decided to send a ship of 5 men back to explore the peculiar islands. As men returned, they came to dock, but the 2 islands sank into the water before they could land. They later came to the conclusion that they had in fact seen krakens, and if they had landed earlier, they would have surely sealed their fate at the bottom of the deep sea surrounding Greenland. Pesta. Pesta was an evil and malevolent witch of hell, which took the form of a dishevelled old lady with a crooked black ghostly pale face, scraggly grey hair and white eyes. She dressed in a long black cloak and always carried a rake or a broom with her. Across the entirety of Scandinavia, it was known that if you were to see Pesta approaching your town, you were already dead. for Pasta was the Nordic personification of the Black Plague of the 14th century, seen in her name meaning pest, referring to the rats which carry the fleas with plague with them and spread it from town to town. In Norse folklore, it's believed that wherever Pasta went, she would take the plague with her, fulfilling her task from hell to decimate the entire population. Pesta was so feared for Scandinavia was hit particularly hard by the Black Death, with an average of a third of the Scandinavian population succumbing to the disease. Norway, however, suffered from the plague the most due to the main trade ports being situated there, losing over half their population. In Scandinavian folklore, it's told that when one sees Pesta approaching a town, you must look at what she is carrying. For if she held a rake, some would survive passing through the teeth of the rake, but if she was seen carrying a broom, the entire town would perish. The act of creating tales out of hardships, such as with Pesta, is a common occurrence in the Norse world, for it would help them explain their suffering and ill luck, and also mean that the horrors of the event would never be forgotten. So that's 5 of the creepiest creatures in Norse and Scandinavian folklore. Thanks for watching, we hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.
Welcome back everyone to Most Amazing Top 10. Today we're going to be talking about parallel universes. If you're a bit of a skeptic, and I understand that, you may lump this in with the supernatural. Parallel universes aren't real, and if people think they've been to one, there's probably a very rational explanation, right? Sound familiar? Well, here's the thing though. If we're being technical, there is nothing really that says parallel universes can't exist. In fact, a leading scientific theory right now promotes the concept of the multiverse, where infinite versions of reality exist side by side in other dimensions. On top of that, these stories are also really creepy. Absolute bonus there. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the top 10 scary parallel universe stories. Starting off at number 10 now, we have The Man from Taured. This is one of my favourite stories ever, actually. I remember hearing about it as a kid, and now here I am telling it. Nice. In July 1954, a bearded man got stopped during customs at Tokyo Airport. He looked nervous and caught the attention of a customs officer. When interviewed, his native tongue was French, but he spoke fluent Japanese. When they asked where he was from, he replied, Taured. They had never heard of that place before, and they asked him to tell them more. He was confused that they had never heard of his country, but he obliged. He said that Taured was in between France and Spain, and had been a country for 1,000 years. The customs officer called him out and said that he was lying. No such place existed. The man from Taured became irate and pulled out his passport. Sure enough, the passport was from Taured, and it looked valid. They asked him to then point to Taured on a map. Now he said he couldn't see Taured on this map, but it should be right there, and he pointed at a real place called Andorra. At this point, everyone was confused, including the man. The authorities chose to investigate things further the next day. They got him a hotel room and placed a guard outside for the night. The next morning, though, they opened the door to find that he had vanished. There was no trace of him. He couldn't have escaped out the window, as there were many floors up. To make matters even stranger, the man's documents, such as his checkbook, passport and driver's license, had also disappeared from the airport security room. What a great story to start us off there. What do you guys think about that? Any decent theories? Let me know. Moving on to number 9 now, we have The Missing Boyfriend. This is a story I found online about a woman called Linnea Barcia from Madrid. One morning she woke up in her apartment and things just seemed off. It was the same place she knew, but items were out of place and didn't belong there. Before she had time to figure that out though, there was a more pressing issue. Her boyfriend was gone. She looked for his phone number, but that was gone too. In a panic, she asked her friends, and to her horror, they didn't know who she was talking about. She called the police to file a missing persons report, but they told her there were no records of that person at all. A psychiatrist told her that she was hallucinating due to stress, but Linnea disagreed. When she talked to her family about the whole thing, they didn't seem to remember the same things as she did, like her sister's recent shoulder operation. They said it never even happened. At work, she was in the same company, but a different department altogether. She told her supervisor, who she'd never met before, that she felt ill and needed to go home. Eventually, Linnea was declared mentally ill. She had no history of substance abuse or mental illness at all. By all accounts, her experience was a complete mystery. Linnea maintains that she believes she slipped from her own universe to a very slightly different one. Moving on to number 8 now, we have Carol Chase McElhenney. In March 2006, Carol Chase McElhenney was driving from San Bernardino to California to take her dog to some sheepdog trials. On the way, she visited Riverside, a small town where her family had lived for years when she was a kid, and her grandparents were also buried there in the local cemetery. As soon as she made the decision to go there though, she smelled cigar smoke in the car. It was just like the only memory she had of her grandfather, who died when she was a young child. Very strange. After the sheepdog trials, she headed back to Riverside, but something wasn't right. The cemetery where her grandparents were buried was just an overgrown patch of weeds. She couldn't find her childhood home, or any of her family's homes in fact. The houses were different, but their numbers were still correct. The main road in the town was different too, full of scary looking people and with different buildings. On the other hand, the local school and the college did look the same. Some things were identical. Carol left Riverside convinced that she had slipped into a parallel universe. A few years later, Carol's father died and was buried in the Riverside Cemetery. When she went there for the funeral, she found the town had returned to the one that she remembered as a child, and she never encountered the alternate dimension Riverside again. At the number 7 spot now, we have The Castle. This is a story that was shared to the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit by user John30859. He said, "Me, my cousin and my aunt were all outside on the front porch playing. We were all the same age, around 4 to 5. 2 teenagers approached us and asked if we wanted to see a castle. I knew this was bad news, but my cousin had to go see it, so we both agreed to follow. We went into the woods and walked along a trail for what felt like an eternity, probably 20 minutes or so realistically. We arrived to find a beautiful, gleaming, majestic castle in the distance. I'm talking something you would see in the movies. The place was made of heaven. It literally shined as if we entered a city of wealth. We excitedly looked at each other and sprinted home to tell our parents. The teenagers stayed behind. They never chased or followed. Our run back was instantaneous, as if it took a few seconds compared to the walk there. We go and tell my mom, and obviously she is freaked out and tells us no more playing outside for the day. Here's the thing though, my mom was so incredibly strict on me that she would have never let me go out of her sight for longer than a minute. The door to the front porch was open, so there's no way 2 random teenagers could have actually taken us into the woods, let alone anywhere without one of our parents seeing. My mom and my cousin's mom were the 2 adults home at the time. I've spoken to my mom about this multiple times. There's no church or anything nearby that we could have mistaken to be a castle. I've even looked as an adult. No luck. All 3 of us remember this phenomenon. I'm 25 now, so it's been 20 years, but we've spoken about this at the age of 6, 8, 12, 15, etc. Essentially every time we see each other, we all remember, always have. I know some will chalk this up as kids imagining things, but I swear to you that this was real. Moving on to number 6 now, we have The Second Chance. This one comes from Reddit user Red Leaders. It's been one of the most popular stories posted to the Glitch in the Matrix subreddit, and you're about to see why. It starts with him walking along a trail. He said, "The trail leads up to a set of abandoned train tracks on the other side, which sits about 15 feet above the path and a pond below. I was crossing the train tracks when I decided I wanted some ice cream. The fastest way to get to the ice cream shop was to take the path below the train tracks, but there isn't any easy way to cross the pond without going all the way back around, and being 14 years old, I decided that I could just jump from the tracks onto the path below and keep walking. Looking down from above, it didn't seem to be that far of a jump. So that's what I did. The next thing I remember after that was being half conscious in an ambulance. Everything was extremely blurry and the paramedics sounded slightly panicked. I wasn't able to move either of my legs, so I think they were broken. This scene continued on for a few minutes until we arrived at a hospital and I was wheeled into the emergency room on a stretch chair. I only had a few minutes in the emergency room before I eventually lost all consciousness, and that was the last thing I saw. After I'd been unconscious for what felt like about an hour, I opened my eyes and I was on the ground. I just hit the ground again after jumping, but this time I was fully conscious. I hadn't noticed this before I jumped, but there had been a car parked watching me. I think they thought I was attempting suicide, it probably looked that way, and the people in it had jumped out and called an ambulance for me. The ambulance ride had been the exact same as it was the first time, and I was put into the same emergency room that I had died in before. The only difference between the two events was that I was fully conscious this time, and my injuries were much more minor. I was discharged from the hospital the same night with only stitches on my lip, a slightly fractured jaw, and a mild concussion. For a while after this, I assumed that the first scenario had just been a weirdly coincidental dream that I'd had while I was unconscious, so I didn't consider it anything abnormal. It wasn't until a few weeks later when my mom told me that the people who had helped me said that I had been conscious the entire time, I hadn't been knocked out after hitting the ground or anything. Next up at number 5 now, we have the Philadelphia experiment. According to rumors, in 1943 the US Navy made a ship phase out of existence and reappear somewhere else entirely. They were experimenting with the use of large electrical generators to bend light around objects so that they would become completely invisible. Clearly a huge advantage in any military situation. They tested it on the USS Eldridge and reportedly made the ship disappear in front of dozens of witnesses. But it wasn't just a trick of the light. The story goes that they not only made it disappear, they also teleported it. The ship vanished in a flash of blue light and then reappeared over 200 miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, before then returning to Philadelphia soon after. The crew were said to have suffered horrific side effects, though. There were reports of sailors who had become fused into the metal on the ship. Some of them just disappeared forever, and others went clinically insane. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the scolding. This is one I found on Reddit from Cassie Cuppy Cake. This is a short one, but it caught my eye and I want to hear your thoughts on it. She said, "My husband works third shift, graveyard if you will. We have 2 girls, 7 and 3. They usually wake up to say goodnight to dad before he heads to work. My husband had just left for work and I was in the kitchen, cleaning up before bed as it was around 10:45 p.m. I hear the girls arguing and messing around. The little one cries, and I'm thinking I want to finish the dishes before I break this up. I hear 'stop it now' in my husband's distinct tone, and the girls stop right away. I think that's really weird. Maybe he forgot something and slipped in and I didn't hear because the water was running. So as I turn the corner to check and see what he's doing home, I'm met by 2 girls that are both expecting to see their dad around the corner. Where's daddy? I don't know what to say. I freeze. I say, well, let's get to bed and stop fighting like dad said. So I tuck them in and then I look outside. The car isn't in the driveway. He's not home. I text him and he was at work the whole time. Does anyone have any theories on that? Please. Please. Moving on to number 3 now, we have Gadianton Canyon. We're going back to May 1972 for this one, where 4 girls were driving across the desert border from Utah to Nevada one night. A fork in the road appeared. They went left and went through Gadianton Canyon. After a while, the road changed to white cement. Now they thought they had gone the wrong way, and so they turned around. As soon as they turned around though, on their way back to the fork, the scenery was totally different now. The desert was gone, and in its place were lush trees and fields all around them. Suddenly, one of the girls screamed. A group of egg-shaped vehicles with 3 wheels and blaring lights started chasing after them. They managed to escape and get back to the familiar desert, but had to stop when they ended up with 3 flat tires. They were picked up by a state trooper the next day who was skeptical about their story until he found that the girls' tire tracks had just stopped at one point and he couldn't see them go any further. Had they slipped into another world? Next up at number 2 now, we have the 3rd floor. This one comes from Reddit user Zashiba, who shared their story on a thread discussing the existence of parallel universes. They said, I once went to a conference held at Portland State University. There were a few floors to the building we were in. My teacher had assigned us buddies we were to stick with. I was paired with a guy named Jacob. It's important to note that at the time of the conference, PSU was undergoing a modernization of the building. So, new paint, new rugs, new doors, remodeling of various rooms. Jacob and I were on the 2nd floor and our next meeting was on floor 3. So, instead of taking the stairs, we took the elevator. We were the only 2 on the elevator. When we arrived on floor 3, the doors opened on a dark floor. No lights were on. The hordes of people gone. It was silent. Jacob and I stepped off the elevator onto the floor and looked for our room. We found it, but it was closed, locked, and dark. All the doors that left that wing were locked and it was dark beyond them. Looking out of the windows, there were no cars out on the street, no one playing hacky sack on the grass. The whole world outside was just still. The doors to the stairs were closed and the floor hadn't been renovated yet. Old carpet, old wallpaper from the 70s or some forgotten era. The elevator doors stayed open the entire time Jacob and I explored the floor. We decided we must be in the wrong area, so we hopped back into the elevator and went back to floor 2. Upon arriving, we found ourselves themselves back in the thick of things. People everywhere, doors open, lights on, renovation going on. We found our teacher and told her that we tried to find the room, but floor 3 was dark. She said she was just on floor 3 and it was fully engulfed in activities. Jacob and I looked towards the stairs and saw people going up and coming down as if nothing was wrong. So we took the stairs to floor 3. What we found fully confused the hell out of us. It was exactly the floor we were just on, but it was fully renovated. New carpet, new paint. The whole floor was lit up and abuzz with activity. Rooms were open, people
What is up, bros, and welcome back. You guys know what time it is. We are jumping into the technical test servers and testing out a bunch of hidden and known changes. That being said, it's a good thing to keep in mind this is just the test server, so everything is subject to change, but from past experiences it does seem like most of these will stay intact. Now let's listen into this very first one where it sounds like there's almost footsteps added just from looking around. Now let's compare. Now this next change, we're going to be taking a look at some of the font in game. We can tell from this clip, it looks like the thickness of the black outline of the timer has been increased. I did have a friend that was telling me that even the chat text box seemed like it was different font, but when I was testing it out, it seemed pretty much similar, but definitely the timer was very easy to tell. Man, now I feel like Ella's Scorpion Evo gets changed with literally every single update. As of right now, I feel like it drags much more to the left and the right, making it harder to shoot. But I don't know, let me know what you guys think after you guys have gone in and tested the Scorpion. I definitely feel like something is slightly different with it. It is hard to nail it down exactly what it is though. Now these next couple have to do with the new mute buff, and this specific one is directed towards Dokkaebi, how her calls will now automatically hang up after 18 seconds of being called. I'm getting the timer down below and it is exactly 18 seconds, so really cool change. You can now just run around like a wild man with your phone ringing and it'll eventually hang up. Now this other change is coming to mute. Now if you happen to be within the vicinity of a mute jammer, you can simply walk into the radius of it and it will auto turn off the Dokkaebi call. You're also going to be getting notifications once you're inside of the mute jammer, so really cool change to mute. Alright, so this next one is a new running animation, and honestly I have no idea why it was changed. I thought the old one looked pretty good. This one's kind of hunched forward and like charging forward. I don't know, maybe a lot of people think it looks more realistic. Honestly I think it might look a little bit goofy though, and this was definitely an unexpected change.
Running down this hall. 10 seconds to insertion.
What is what? Okay.
Op 4 has yet to locate a
Oh
bomb.
my god, it looks so goofy. What's going on with that?
Alright, so this next change was released in the patch notes, so the Capitao area of effect with his firebolt has increased, as well as his damage per tick has gone from 19 to 12. So slight nerf in damage, but at the same time it covers a huge area, so it's pretty cool. I'm definitely excited to get into more games and test these out. Now another change that I did mention in our previous video, we got a new scope in Siege, and this can be equipped to anyone that has the M249 SAW, so that being Gridlock and also the older operator Capitao. Because he shares the same LMG, he's now not going to have an ACOG, but he's going to have this 2.5 scope. They literally just call it scope. There are also some character model changes. The first one's going to be Capitao. I'm going to show it off. The second one is going to be Hibana, and then the third one is going to be Caveira. I'm going to kind of let them play out and show you guys the differences in character model. Some of them are good, some of them are a little bit ugly, but you guys will see what I'm talking about. Now this one just shows so much cool little details that were added. You are now going to be able to see reflections off of your sights when you're not ADSing. You guys can see that you can now walk up to like vending machines and you can actually see reflections in your scope, whereas before it was just straight up glass, so you could never see anything. Like this one here, I'm looking at the light behind me. So pretty cool little crazy details that they were able to add. So this next one is a change to your teammate's death icon. Now I have heard that this is the Chinese icon because it's not the skull anymore, but I have also heard that this was just on the test server and they're going to revert it back to the skull for the actual release. So time will tell, but this is also another hidden little change. So this next one is pretty interesting. They are now reducing your HP that you receive after a reset or once you get picked up. Instead of getting 50, you're now getting 20, which is a pretty big hit because it's pretty much one bullet anyways, so there's almost no point to get reset. Now of course I have to show off the quick lean changes. This is such a good thing. So before, obviously we all know about how crazy fast you could just spam Q and E or the lean buttons with a shield or pretty much any operator and you would pretty much just skip side to side. Well now there's actually steps in between, so it's a process. So once you hit the button you don't just instantly lean. So if you spam it back and forth, it stops you where you are at and starts to lean the other way, therefore making it so it's not huge motion. So awesome change, good job Ubisoft. So this next one's a pretty interesting one. There's a slight increase in the swap time from your torch to the time that you can ADS and shoot with your weapon. You guys can see how fast I was doing that on Coastline, but on the new build, as soon as I was pulling out my main weapon, I was trying to ADS, but it was slightly more delayed than before. So Maverick mains, be aware of this one. Now this next one's definitely going to be a big hit to Lesion. This is making him much less annoying. If you're in like a 1v1 situation and you step on a goo mine, you might be better off just going for the fight and eating the damage. Before, his goo mines used to do the 10 initial and then 8 per tick. Now they're still doing the 10 initial on this one, but instead of 8, that's being cut in half to 4. So you can pretty much survive twice as long on this new build versus before. Now your screen's still going to get fogged up, so taking the fight is going to be completely up to you depending on how much HP you have and of course your current situation. Now there's some pretty cool changes coming to breaching charges. The first thing is going to be attackers are now going to be able to deploy them much faster. The second thing is damage on the attacker side is reduced from 150 to 50. I don't know though, I was standing straight up next to it and it took all 3 breaching charges to finally kill myself. Now the third change is that pretty much all the damage that was initially being dealt to the attacker has now shifted to the other side of the breaching charge. So defenders or whatever is on the opposite side of the breaching charge is now going to be receiving increased damage. You guys are going to see me run a couple different tests with different HP levels. Like that one, I was fully juiced up as Doc. I was able to heal myself to 139 before it went off, and I lost about 109, 110 damage, give or take 1 or 2. So yeah, it's definitely really strong. Now this last clip, you're gonna see me run around. I'm trying to kill myself with the breaching charges and it takes 3. So really interesting changes overall. Now one other thing that Altered and I noticed while we were testing this out is that there seems to be a stun effect if you're on the other side of the breaching charge. But along with this damage change, you definitely don't want to be on the wrong side of a breaching charge anymore. Alright, now this is a cool cosmetic change that is going to be really good to help our guns look that much sexier. Before, all hollow sights had like a brownish tint to it, but now they're going to be matching the type of gun that you're using. So Alibi's MX Storm is still going to be a brownish tint, but on guns like the R4C, especially now that we don't have ACOG, it's going to be a nice slick black to match. Anyways, you guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys know any more hidden changes, be sure to comment them down below. Maybe we'll have enough to make a part 2 with the Coconut Bra fam. I love you guys all. I'll see you guys all very soon in the next video. Peace. Alright, so this next one is a new running animation expected change.
Top 4 has yet.
Awesome.